years, and I belong to Assam. I am from the city of Guwahati in Assam, the capital, and I've grown up in Assam. My parents, my father's a doctor and my mother's a teacher, and I've lived in Assam until my undergrad, and after class 12 I moved to Pune, where I did my graduation from Symbiosis, and after that I did an MBA, a PGDBA actually, from Symbiosis again, and after that, yeah, so before my PGDBA, I kind of did my first job. It was at Google in Hyderabad, and after my first job, I left that when I was actually seeing an army officer for quite some time. Right after my graduation, all through my graduation, I was seeing an army officer. So he is about 9 years older to me. My husband is 9 years older to me, and so after years of seeing each other, we decided to marry. But we came from very different cultures. He's Sindhi and I'm Assamese, and so we decided to convince our parents. And we managed to do it after an initial battle of both the families not agreeing, because we were very different culturally. And but after the parents met, it kind of became more of an arranged marriage than a love marriage. And then, because he was so much older, we had to get married sooner. Even before that, talking about my love for travel, I think my father is a big history buff, so I have learned a lot about different places and different dynasties in India from him. And during our very planned holidays, as during my childhood, we used to go to different cities, and then we used to go to various museums, forts, and he used to explain that this ruler used to be there, and this was the Mughal kingdom or the Chola kingdom or this dynasty was there, and I got very interested in all of that and history per se. And I remember my first trip to like the Birla Planetarium, or I remember my first trip to the zoo, or my first beach experience in Madras. These are very vivid memories that I have as a child, and I think that initial fear of traveling to an unknown place got broken because of my parents. My boyfriend at that time and now husband is an avid traveler and travel buff, and he introduced me to the concept of risk-taking travel or adventure traveling. So he, being a biker, being a backpacker since many years, has been doing a lot of solo trips and a lot of adventure tourism. So he and I used to also go on a lot of trips together. And during my college days also, I also took off on my own for a couple of trips. And after we got married, we went to a lot of unplanned trips. We went on trips where we wouldn't know where we would stay, where we would sleep and everything. And we used to go be on bikes for days or in a car for days, and we used to just see how it takes us. So I think that kind of broke my initial fear of how it will happen if I don't have a plan B. What will happen? So that's how my entire love for traveling, and I would say of being curious, started. Then I started volunteering in a lot of organizations. I went to Auroville to volunteer there for their summer program, and it was just me trying to actually find a way to see if I can travel by myself, firstly, and secondly, if I can learn something or pick up something from the culture around me and meet people who are different from me. So this first experience led me to meeting a lot of people who were not like me, who came from different places of the globe and who were doing phenomenal work in their own lives at different ages and stages of their life. Like some were very young and some were very older. So they were doing different kinds of interesting concepts like sustainable farming, or someone was into architecture and they're helping build the entire facade of Auroville, or someone was in a lot of like waste management. So these are things that I kind of picked up from people around me. So slowly my interest developed, not only that of traveling alone, of being in places unfamiliar. So I did it more and more. I started traveling more and more by myself. And along with my husband also, we went to a lot of, apart from his army postings, we went to a lot of other places like Siachen or Ladakh. Then we came all the way down to Kerala and Pondicherry, and I had different kinds of experiences in these kind of places. So along with being an army wife, I took in a lot of travel experiences from my husband as well. We went for our first international backpacking trip to Singapore, Malaysia. That was my first foreign trip ever. I had never been abroad before that. Of course, Nepal, but then you don't really say that that's an international trip. But yeah, I went to Singapore, Malaysia. But that again was my first very touristy kind of experience, and I was like, I want to do this, I want to buy this, I want to be like. And then I realized that no, travel is not only about ticking off places from the bucket list, and it's about seeing and staying in one place probably and taking it slow and experiencing the culture and the vibe of the place and learning from locals and trying to amalgamate yourself rather than sticking out in that place. So that's how I started developing my own interest and I would say culture, like travel culture myself. My husband is somebody who likes to see a lot of places. Like he does the extreme adventure tourism and then he'll see everything possible. But for me it's kind of the opposite, because I like to take it slow and I like to go on, like I will spend an entire day just trying food in different places. Even if I know that it's the last day in the city, I will still do it because it's something that interests me. So I would rather do that than tick off like the most famous place to see in that city. So I developed something like that, and I also developed an interest for local cultures, local food, things that are more interesting to see that you wouldn't know as a tourist. So I started to go and I started to find out like from the internet about families who were staying in these places. Then I would contact them myself and then I would like learn from them. So taking in a lot of these experiences, I started traveling more and more by myself, and I started gaining confidence. I still remember my first experience of getting lost. I think it was my first international trip with him. It was in Malaysia somewhere, and I got stuck on the local train, like the metro. And at that time, all this was very new to me, like the entire system of metropolitan city and getting used to it. And then somehow we got lost. My husband was in another station and I was in another station, and I couldn't see what was happening, and I didn't have the map or the next station's name also. I was that naive. So I didn't know what was happening, and then the doors just closed and the train left and I didn't know what to do. And that's when I asked help for the first time, and I asked someone besides my husband, and then I got to know that okay, fine, this is the way to get off. And then it's so easy because it's just the trains would keep revolving and coming back. So of course I met my husband again on the trip, but that first initial experience of shock of not knowing what to do and what if you get separated was my first initiation, I would say, into handling things by myself. And then I loved it so much that I started not taking him along for my next trips, and not knowing what to do. That's something that gives me a lot of pleasure. That adrenaline rush of what will happen if I get lost, that kind of thing. So that's what happened. I was a volunteer. Yeah. I stayed there for 2 weeks. And it was there's a station over there, radio station called Orville Radio, and I volunteered there with them because the radio owner, they needed some help with the social media analytics, and because of my experience with Google, they contacted me and then they said that we need some help. Also they made me do some radio interviews and some audio shoots and everything for them. And so that's it. So I was living with the community, and I was living in one of their youth hostels that they had for their volunteers, and it was a fantastic experience. Very, very nice experience. I think my entire childhood I have parents who very caring. They still are, and they want a call from me every day. I have a brother who's always been a helicopter parent, so he's an older brother, so you can imagine how older brothers are with their sisters. So he's held my hand since I was a little child, and he never used to leave me alone. And my parents also some found got a lot of relief though, ये तो होने वाला है इसके साथ and हमेशा and everything. So this, and my brother was already studying in Pune when I came to Pune. So they were relieved that, at least the brother is there in the same city. But we found our own spaces there. Like he had his own group and I had my own group. And of course I met my future husband there. So they couldn't do much about protecting me, I think. So anyway, so they've always been like people who know, they have a plan B in mind. My father was in a central government job, and all their lives, although we have taken trips, a lot of family trips and everything, they've always been a very structured and a very like family oriented thing. Like I wouldn't imagine my mother backpacking anywhere, or going off and then not coming back, or like taking a solo trip by herself and come. Although like she's had a great childhood as a child, and she was very exposed to good music and food and everything, but they were always told to be home by a certain time, and they were always sheltered and protected. So I was the same. I was very sheltered. I used to get dropped and picked up from places, and then I don't know what happened, and I completely changed. And I think it was the taste of something that I had never had as a child, which is a taste of the outdoors. And when I got it, I refused to give up. And so everything that I've done, I think, in my life, it's not it's a rebellion or anything. I feel like I have evolved as a person, and I have changed my own attitude of finding things or being scared of things and fear of the unknown. So these are things that I think every child is conditioned to believe, especially in an Indian society, that it's not safe out there. It's a big bad world, and you will get predated upon, and don't go, especially if you're a woman. God forbid, if you go outside, something will definitely happen to you. But from my own experiences, I can tell you that the world is really beautiful, and it's just that you have to take a risk and you have to try. I was also initially scared of how I will be able to cope up when I go out, and what will happen, because if I go to a foreign country and I don't even have a local number to call, how will I end up being safe, or who will I tell at that point? My parents won't be there, and they'll be like, we told you about it and everything. So I didn't want that to happen. But as and when I started going more and more, I think the fear in me started diminishing, and my confidence in myself and my ability to handle myself grew. So when I realized this, and I started taking more chances. Like, I pursued my master's after I was married, and this was also a conscious decision because I had done a PGDBA. It was not a proper master's as such, and I wanted to study media from a long time. I found this really great course in Pune University, and I enrolled in it. And I remember that my husband was a lieutenant colonel at that time. We were serving in Bhatinda, and I gave him my results and I said, see, I'm going, and this is so and so, and I want to do a master's. And he's been supportive always, but obviously everybody has questions. So his parents also had questions, and they were like, oh, she's going to go away and she's going to do, what do you mean a full-time master's? Like, she can't do it distance. And I said, no, I really want to study after this, and I see myself as I see me pursuing a career in media studies, and I want to study further. So yeah, we managed to convince them, and then I moved to Pune and I stayed in a small room in a little hostel in Pune, and it was a huge change from my earlier sheltered army life again. So every time that I have these these very comfortable situations in my life, I start going away from that situation. I don't know why. It's something that's very inherent in me, that I find, oh my god, this is too comfortable for me, I won't be able to take this. So it was a very, very good life, the army life, and I've learned a lot from it. But obviously it was a part of me. It was not me completely. So I said that, I'll pursue it, and then I moved. And then I stayed like a student there. I was the oldest student in my class. And I met very, very good people from all over the country, and a lot of people from Maharashtra who had come to study from their own villages, and it was because it was a state university. I got to meet a lot of local people. I studied fantastic subjects: media research, video production, and for the first time I got initiated into film study and film appreciation, cinema courses, and everything. So I was like having a ball. And then I realized that my husband got posted to Pune. So he informed me, he said, you know what, I'm coming to Pune, and I've asked for a posting and everything. And my first reaction should have been, wow. but I said, what? Instead of wow. And because I was beginning to enjoy like my freedom so much and staying in a little room in a hostel, and it was so nice that I had forgotten that, I was his wife who was supposed to have responsibilities in a married life. So then he was like, you don't sound happy and everything. So then I processed it. Of course, I was like, no, this is so nice that you're coming. And then I told all my friends that, he's coming and everything. So then we moved again to an army camp in Pune, in College of Military Engineering. We stayed there for the next 2 years, and during my second semester of like us being posted here and me going to class every day, I realized that one day, just before I was like due to go to class, I took a pregnancy test and it turned out positive. So I was just like, before that I was not even prepared to be a mom. I think we didn't even discuss like being parents or anything. And it had been 7 years since we were married. And everybody obviously like used to ask, like, are you planning a baby or is it happening? And my in-laws and my parents as well. But we never really consciously discussed. And it was a course I was doing. I was not planning to get pregnant in between my masters. So, and I had planned to go on a family trip to Gangtok and Darjeeling before that, which was a hilly area. So all my tickets were booked and I was due to leave in a few days, and my classes were just finishing for the term. And then I get this positive medical report, And then I went to my husband with the test, and then I was like, look, I'm pregnant and everything. So yeah, so he was overjoyed and everything. So he was like, yeah, that's great, And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm studying. I can't quit right now, I'm pregnant and everything. And my first thing was like, I want to go for the trip. I planned this and everything. So he said, no, there's no way I would. He said, I think that you can go. You can go, but I'll talk to your family first. So we disclosed the news of my pregnancy on a phone call. And because we weren't even thinking seriously of pregnancy, my in-laws and my parents both thought it was a joke when we called them. We called them, and then I was like, oh, by the way, I have to give you some news. I'm pregnant. And they were like, why? What are you doing? Don't joke like this, Dinaz. And it's too funny. We are done with your jokes now. Because we used to joke about it a lot, okay? Because we used to have a dog. We used to call him our baby. So we never even thought of getting pregnant. Once I did, they really could not believe it. And we had to call them again and again, to convince them that I was actually pregnant. And then my mom immediately, she was like, no, so then cancel your trip. You're not coming. I said, no way, I'm coming. So they didn't let me go for that trip. That trip was cancelled. And I remember then, the first day that I got to know I was pregnant, my husband was obviously like, we'll go to the military hospital, we'll get a blood test done to confirm and everything. So we went, and then after my blood test, I took the report and I was obviously positive. And the doctor told me that you've been 4 or 5 weeks or something. And then I went to class. I went to the canteen, and then I sat alone by myself. I didn't know what to do. And all my friends were regularly meeting me in the, hi Dinaz, how are you? And I had a very swollen face, and then I was eating poha. I was thinking, oh God, what should I do now? I'm pregnant. How do I finish my course? And I don't know what happened after that. Some josh came into me in which, no, I have to finish my degree. I must go on and everything. And I did not tell my department. I did not tell my head of department, my professors, that I was pregnant initially. Because I was scared of, I did not know what would happen if I would be able to carry the baby, or, how parents say that, okay, keep it to yourself the first couple of months. So I guess I was too, a little conscious about if I would be able to. Because I had always been such a, I had such an active lifestyle that I used to be outdoors all the time or be on bikes and stuff. So I thought that I hope I'm able to carry the pregnancy well. So after I think about 2 months of me being pregnant and hiding it from everyone in class, I used to wear these like jackets and everything just to hide my pregnancy, very filmy. But before the semester ended, I went on the day of my final exam, the day of my semester exams. I went to Madhavi ma'am, my HOD, and I told her, "Ma'am, I'm going to drop a bomb on you." And don't. So she thought that it's something very crazy, you know. She's like, "What is it, Dinah?" I said, "Ma'am, I'm pregnant." And then she said, "Wow, that's really nice." And I was like, "What? Why is she reacting like this? She should scold me, you know." So, but it was all in my head. Like I'm saying, the fears were in my head. So she said, "That's amazing." And even I was pregnant apparently with her son Siddhant, when she was doing her degree in Bombay. And she said, "Just go with the flow, you know, and we are here to support you." Then she called my professor, Ajit sir, and Ajit sir came, and then he was like, "What is it?" And he thought I was going to complain against him. So sir said, "Why are you calling me?" And ma'am was like, "You know what, she's pregnant." And he was like, "Wow, so nice. And it's good that you're pregnant in the 3rd semester. If you were pregnant in the 2nd semester, I would have scolded you a little because you wouldn't have come to class and I would have needed your attendance and everything." So after I knew that I had their support, it became much easier for me. And I used to go to class with my ever-growing belly and with morning sickness. I remember that in the 1st trimester, I had a lot of morning sickness. And my husband was away for some time due to work. But I still managed to carry on. I used to go to classes. And I remember one very embarrassing time in which I think towards the end of my 1st trimester, I got so sick one day that I had fever, I had loose motions, and I had vomiting on the same day in my department. And I couldn't control, like, you know, what was happening to my body because of the pregnancy. And I was supposed to get picked up at the after the end of my class, but the driver wasn't coming. So I remember throwing up inside my compound, like the department compound. I threw up there, and it was so embarrassing because there were people like all over from other departments also. They had parked their bikes and all, and here I was like, you know, throwing up and everything. Yeah, so finally the driver came, and then I was like, "Where were you?" You know, my husband wasn't also there in town, and I was like, "Who do I call now? I'm getting so sick." So that's the time that I remember being really, really sick. And I was sick for about a week or so of like heavy fever, and everything was happening with my body that I did not recognize was happening. And then I became better. And 2nd and 3rd trimester, I've enjoyed completely. I've enjoyed myself. I used to go to class also. And of course, like physical changes were happening. I was getting more tired sooner. I wasn't able to sleep, and I was getting morning sickness a little bit. And I was running like I was going short of breath and everything, but that did not stop me from pursuing anything. I used to go for class, and Madhavi ma'am had told me that, you know, you take a stool and you lift your feet up and don't worry about it, like nobody will tell you anything. So I used to like hide, there were these tables and I used to hide a stool underneath, and I actually used to take a chair. And I thought that the students who were younger to me, my classmates, they would actually make fun कि, you know, ये क्या हो रहा है हमारे सामने, and they had never seen a pregnant woman in class sitting with them, you know. But to my surprise, they were so supportive, and I made some really good friends then, because they would take my husband's number, my parents' number. They were like, "If you ever faint or you know something happens, we need to rush you." So I said, "Don't get so worried, nothing will happen, you know, it's just a pregnancy." So no, but they took everything, and they were very like supportive. They used to give me class notes on WhatsApp, and they were like, "D, you don't come to class today, it's okay, we'll give you proxy and all that stuff." So they were supportive. And then 2nd and I think 3rd trimester, by the beginning of 3rd trimester, I had gone home for a month, and then I went to my in-laws' place in Jaipur, where I attended a relative's wedding. I danced a lot in my 7th month. I remember dancing, and I was Latin dancing with my husband. and everyone was like, Dinas, don't do it, you're risking the baby's everything. But I was like, if the baby is born, I have to know that the mother is a dancer and the mother is someone who likes enjoying themselves. So I was happily dancing, all the wedding pictures are there with me with a huge belly and dancing away. So yeah, so right until the last couple of days of me delivering the baby, I was super active. I was going to college. I remember my final exams were there and my thesis presentation was going on. And there was a huge, the national seminar happens, the national conference happens. So that happened. So I presented a research paper there. And 3 days after that conference presentation, I delivered a baby. And I started getting like labor pains in my house itself at night. And that was the day that I was actually like checking a lot of social media. I was uploading my baby shower pictures on Facebook, and suddenly I was like, oh, and it was about 20 or 15 days left for my delivery date, for my due date, which was on March 15th. So March, I think 3rd of March was when she was born. So morning of 3rd March, I started having very heavy labor pains and contractions and everything. So I woke up my husband. It was about, I think, 3 or 4 in the morning. I woke him up and I said, I'm having very bad pains, let's rush. And he said, no, there are 2 weeks left, you go back to sleep, nothing will happen. And I was like, hey, let's go, I'll deliver right here. So we carried everything. We carried everything, like we had packed a lot of baby bag and like mama bag and all. So my husband was very particular about all these things, that there should be like everything ready when you get labor pains. But we weren't expecting it so early. So we did that, we climbed onto the car. We took everything, we were so prepared that we forgot to take our medical reports. Everything except our medical files I forgot, like which had everything from the scans and all the ultrasound like reports of the doctor. So obviously, when you go for the final time, the doctor does need your medical reports. So we came with like luggage to move into a hotel or something, I don't know. We were walking and I was in pain and my husband was carrying the bags and the nurse was like, हाँ medical file कहाँ है? I said, अरे medical file ही भूल गए, कपड़े लेके आए, सब कुछ लेके आए, makeup भी लेके आए. But medical reports bhul gaye. And it was the quickest delivery in the history. I think I delivered in, I call it 127 minutes. Like from the time that I started having labor pains, very high labor pains, and went into the hospital, and till the time she actually popped out, it was 127 minutes exactly. So that is the time that it took. And I always tell this to other moms also, that be very active when you are pregnant, because if you're not active, then it will be difficult for you during the delivery process, and also labor pains might increase because you're in like probably a rested position, or probably you're not used, your muscles are not, your ligaments are not very well lubricated, or your joints are not being activated enough. So I always tell them that maintain some kind of a routine in which you are active. Even if you are not as active as probably like going out every day, try to maintain that walking schedule of some kind of like activity that will help lubricate your joints, because it's really helpful during the delivery. So yeah, so that's how my child was born. We named her Ariana. She's now 5.5. She's going to be 6 in March. So before I think I delivered the baby, when I was pregnant, when we used to go out for our evening walks and all, everyone used to tell us, अरे अभी सब कुछ कर लो, baby के बाद कुछ नहीं करने को मिलेगा, and get your sleep, get your like do all the fun things, because उसके बाद तुम भूल जाओगे, your life will have to change, हो जाएगा. And we used to tell them, no, nothing like that will happen. And they used to be like, अभी baby नहीं हुआ है ना, समझ जाओगे after that. And they used to be with their babies at that time. And I was like, maybe it's true, maybe it does happen and the life does change. But but after she was born, we traveled to my husband's next posting, which was Bhatinda again. We went to Bhatinda again. and he took over a regiment at the time. He was commanding officer, and I had to be back to my duties as an army wife. My masters had just got over, everything was over, so I was like, okay, this is the time that I'll take for a break to raise my child, like the first year of my baby's life. So I went to Bathinda. But right after, I had to obviously be very involved as an army wife, and when you're commanding a regiment, you have to be responsible for the wives and the children of the army Jawans. So the wife of the commanding officer is always supposed to take care of the wives and the children of the soldiers. So I was supervising everything. That meant that I had to go out almost every second day for meetings or welfare meets or something like that with my baby. So all that was happening, I was adjusting to everything. So that also kept me busy. But of course it was a huge change, because you have to feed the child, you have to bathe the child, and the child poops in all kinds of places. So that happens. So many times, like, she's pooped over my sari whenever, like, these army functions that we used to go to, or she used to, while coming back, she used to be wailing, crying. So these incidences I have faced in my life. But that never made me complain too much about not wanting to do anything or giving up on, my life. And I was so itching to travel even after that the first chance we got at 7 months, when she was 7 months, was when my husband was going on a bike trip across Bhutan, and he was already booked with his bike, like, buddies and everything. And I said, what about us, aren't we going? And he was like, how can you go, the baby is 7 months, let me go and come back, I'll take you for a family trip. I said, no, I'm going, do what you want, I'm going. And he was like, only if you can convince someone else to come with you, then we can think about going to Bhutan, because it's a mountainous country. So I convinced my best friend, Shruti. I convinced her, I was like, you guys haven't been there, come with me, we'll take a car and we'll go. So we took a car, my husband and his other buddies were on the bike, and they were ahead and we were following them in the car. So that's how we went to Bhutan, and they did a complete stretch, and me and my friend, we did different stretches. So they took off on their own trip, and we took off on our own trip in Bhutan. And that was the first time I actually exposed Ariana to a long time road journey of like hours and hours. And surprisingly, she took it well. She didn't have mountain sickness or motion sickness as such, and she hardly threw up or anything like that. In fact, motion used to make her feel sleepy, so she used to sleep off during those trips. And that was my first time of when I actually realized that, oh God, I can now travel also with my child, and that I don't have to give up on what I love. So that kind of inspired me to take on more trips with her. Yeah, so after realizing that I could actually travel with her by myself, I booked a ticket for NH7 Weekender, which was a music festival in India, and it was happening in Bangalore that year, and I usually go for music festivals. So I tried to see if I could go with my daughter, and she was about 9 months old at that time. I told my friends in Bangalore that, I'm coming and I've booked a music festival, and they were very excited. So I said, I'm coming with my child and baby. So they said, will they be allowed? So I checked up the rules, and it said children are allowed, but you must be careful of their noise cancellation, like noise thing, if they're able to take it. So I got noise cancellation headphones specially. I ordered them from my brother, who was sailing at that time. So I said, you get these very good quality ones, because I don't want my baby's ears to be damaged because of what I want to do. So he got them for me from outside, and then we went for her first experience in a music concert, and she was the only baby there. And there were like people at the entry, and they were like, will you be able to, like, will she be affected? I said, no, she's wearing these, don't worry, like, she's fine. So I wore her in a baby carrier, and I also had a pram with me and my friend, and there were a lot of like other friends also. So we enjoyed the concert completely. I made her, it was a full one day experience. So during the morning, like, she was running and dancing and whatever with me. Not running really, because she wasn't able to walk at that time, but she was rolling on the ground. And I used to take her off from time to time, feed her in the concert ground only. And we used to enjoy together. we had a lot of pictures taken from different people who used to come up and tell me, how are you doing this? Really, it's really nice that you're doing this. So, so all that we had fun. So that also gave me a lot of confidence that yeah, maybe she is able to take more experiences like these outdoor activities. So the following year, it was 2015 when I had taken her to Bangalore. So 2016, my husband, me and I planned a trip to Europe with her. And this was supposed to be a completely backpacking trip. So before that, we kind of accustomed ourselves to the whole thing of, okay, we'll have to take a 16-month-old child with us. How are we going to do it? So we started walking extensively in our house and outside the house, and like going on daily walks with her. And we used to be very, very active so that we could cope up with the challenges of this trip. We promised ourselves that we will not book a single hotel. We'll do hostels. And then we will do all public transport. So we won't take taxis and all that stuff. And he was like, will you be able to do it? So I said, I don't know yet, but let's see. And then, so we did 7 countries in Europe. We did Scandinavia, and then we came down to Germany, France, and then Germany. And from Germany, my plan was that he will go back and I will continue with Ariana. And that plan my family did not know. They knew that we were all going on a family trip and we were coming back together to Europe. So when we did Scandinavia fine, and she adjusted very well to the trip. In fact, so after we reached Berlin in Germany is when my husband went back. And then suddenly he posted a picture on Facebook saying that, of both of us, saying, I hope you have a great time and everything, I'll really miss you. And everybody started saying, where are the Naz and Ariana? Why did you leave them in Europe, What do you mean she's, have a good trip? Where are they? And where are you? And my relatives also started asking and everything. So then Ashish was like, don't worry, they're safe in Europe, they're in Germany together. Okay, and it was the first time that I was off contact with anyone. And everybody started freaking out. And then I was also freaking out initially, obviously. It was the first time, and I was in a hostel. And the time that he left me, he took the flight and I took the train to Hamburg with her. I landed in Hamburg, and then I had to search the way to my hostel with a baby in a carrier and a rucksack behind. So I had that, and I had the baby in the pram. That was my plan, that I will wear the rucksack and I will have the baby in the pram. So we went there, and of course it's a smaller city, so people around there were not talking in English as much. They were talking in German. So I had to learn German on the go, like broken phrases. And then I saw these very old ladies on the road, and I was like, I tried to explain to them that I was lost and I was not able to find my, my hostel. So they said that, so everybody started saying something which was a little like, their expressions were a little like that. And I didn't realize what were they saying. They pointed me in the direction. And then I went there with the child, and somehow I reached this very old looking, place to stay. It was called Astoria or something. I landed there, and then at night, towards the evening, I realized that it was a red light district. Okay, that's why everybody was surprised when I was asking them the address. Now, what I had done was I had done it on Booking.com without checking out the traveler reviews. And on Booking.com, it showed that it was a fantastic place and everything, and you can go and free breakfast and everything. So I booked it and I went, and I did not check out TripAdvisor reviews or any other hostel reviews, which was a mistake that I learned later. So that's why I always say that, read traveler reviews and what you learn from the first trip. So I landed there, and at night I used to hear cat calls from Niche se na, not for us obviously, for the people who were staying, and it was completely a very colorful area to live in, and there were neon signs, and I was like, oh God, what have I done, she's just a year old, why am I exposing her to all this? Luckily she couldn't understand what was being talked Niche. But it was a good place to stay. The breakfast was great, but then I shouldn't have done it. I should have taken her to a safer area. Because every day that I used to go for my sightseeing and I used to come back, I obviously used to come back to the same place. And when it used to be post-dusk, there used to be a lot of other women who were looking for work at that time. There used to be a lot of men catcalling and everything, and I didn't want that experience. So Hamburg went off like that, and I spent about 3-4 days there. We saw a lot of beautiful sights. We took the ho-ho tours, the hop-on hop-off tours, and then I took her, I think, to one of the flea markets over there also. So we enjoyed like that, but then I learned that yeah, you have to read traveler reviews and you have to check out the accommodation ki actually kya hai wo reality mein. Then we went to Cologne and then we went to Frankfurt, and both these other places I had fantastic times. We stayed in beautiful hostels by this community called Hosteling International, and it was built on, I think, a heritage building and overlooking the train station and the Cologne Cathedral, which is like one of the most beautiful things in the world to see. So she and I went there, and we went on again a sightseeing trip. I took her, walked with her extensively, took only public transport, like took buses, trams, I think, subways, these kind of things. I got lost also from time to time, but then I figured ways to get back. And when we used to get back, the hostel staff used to help us, like hold the baby for some time when I cooked dinner for her. And that's what I told people also, that instead of a hotel, like try out a hostel with a community kitchen, or try out a B&B experience, a bed and breakfast, where you get your own kitchen, because it's much easier to, cater to meals when you're traveling with a child. So I came back from that trip from Frankfurt to India. And then my family finally, they were relieved. They were like, "Tum log aa gaye safely." And I was like, "Don't worry, we're in one piece. We've come back in one piece." And that I started writing about that experience. I was so shaken up from different kinds of experiences and meeting different people that I started writing about it on my blog. Then a lot of mothers contacted me. They were like, "Oh wow, you've done this. I also want to do this. I am planning to go here and there, but himmat nahi ho rahi. How should I go?" And many times they used to be like, "Parents won't allow us, in-laws won't allow us, husband won't allow me," and everything. So I said, more than anything, try convincing yourself first that you'll be able to do it. And once you are convinced, rest is it's just the other part in which you need to convince that you will be safe and you are confident enough that the baby will be safe. Then I got a lot of questions like, did you carry a pressure cooker? How many diapers did you take, for instance? So I said, the baby's everywhere. That means there's poop everywhere. That means there are diapers everywhere. So you don't need to carry and stuff your luggage with so many diapers. You can buy them off supermarkets and stuff. And if you book yourself in places which have kitchens, then you don't have to worry about cooking. So forget carrying a pressure cooker. I didn't carry anything for the child. So I got everything. She was in fact eating fresh food from local markets, like bread, sausages, cheese, milk, a lot of fresh fruit that she got on the way. And she tried a lot of seafood also. So these are experiences that she's had on the road with me. I also did not know if she could take the taste or the palate to sort of digest these things, but she did. Subsequently, after I came back, I started my blog, and then I took my next trip to Cambodia. I had 2 girlfriends along, and then I took Ariana as well. And we went to Siem Reap and Phnom Penh and these places. We saw Angkor Wat, and it was beautiful. It was really nice. We danced on the streets of Siem Reap. We did karaoke together, and it was fabulous. It was a hot country even in January, but I learned a lot also from that trip. And last year, I took her during our trip to Spain, I again repeated the same Germany experience. My husband went back and I went to Barcelona with my daughter. So complete Barcelona, I think we stayed for about 4-5 days, and we stayed in a bed and breakfast this time. And we traveled again by public transport, and she was a little older. She was about 4.5. So she enjoyed Barcelona completely. We came back. And so this is what I do now. I try to take a trip every year with her, so that she sees a new place and I get that confidence back of traveling with herself. And I think I want to do this for the rest of my life, and also encourage more Indian women to come up and start traveling with their children post motherhood, and try to enjoy experiences that I've been able to enjoy. I think she's become She's become more open to the concept that there are people who don't look like her, who don't talk like her, who don't like eat the same kind of things, and there are other people like that who are equally good and who are equally like fun to be with, because she's met many kids that have like red hair, yellow hair, and she has black hair, and they don't eat dal chawal, and they probably read different things, they speak different languages, but they're equally fun to be with. She's played with these kind of kids, and she's realized that language is not a barrier, and nor is the same culture. Like, you don't have to be Indian, or you don't have to come from a certain like background to be a good person or be friends, because kids are just kids, they'll play with anyone. So that stereotypes of how we adults tend to have a lot of like cliched notions about people, prejudices that we harbor about people, that oh, she must be like this or he must be like this. These things are broken when you travel. And I have seen that she has become very curious. She doesn't remember many things because she was a baby during her first trips, but now that we have started traveling more after she's grown up a little bit, like her last trip to Spain or our Nagaland trip even, she remembers and she asks questions like, why are we doing this, why are we taking the train? And sometimes we tell her exactly which part of the globe we are going, and then she'll take a part in planning and packing for the trip. So she says, can I take this, can I take this? And we have to tell her, no baby, we are taking only 3 rucksacks, one for all of us, and then we are going to also have a pram, and I'm going to have your diaper bag or one bag, so we cannot carry too many toys. So she understands all that. I think she's become like a global citizen now, and she wants to learn. Like the other day I saw her, like she was asking Alexa how teach me Spanish. So she was learning on her own, and I didn't tell her anything. And because last year we went to Spain, and then she was like, Mama, these people are speaking in different like words, what does this mean, what does this mean? And I was telling her like whatever I could, but now I could see on her own she had started asking for words and she was repeating it. I will tell them to just go. Just leave the fears behind and just take a trip and just see how it feels. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a superly successful trip to start traveling again. You might have blunders like my first experience that I told you about, and you will make many mistakes, but it's a part of discovering who you are and discovering your baby as well. Because when you're in a very protected environment around the child, there are 101 people telling you, this is good for your baby, that is good for your baby, or you should do this. But when you're alone with your child, you yourself will know how to handle situations. If she gets very sick or he gets very sick, you will not have anybody around. Or if they are hungry or sleepy or crying for some reason, and when they are not able to talk, you won't hear 1,000 things like, the mother or the sister or somebody won't keep telling you, "Arey, usko bhook lagi hogi, arey, isko neend aa rahi hogi." You will know how to handle that child. And if you manage to handle that, still have a good time, and still manage to see some places and come back, then you will have had a fantastic trip, I would say. So I think that kind of experience for the mother is very important, because it makes the mother and the child bond very well and understand what are the child's cues. So the next time when the child cries, you will know कि going like bahar jane se pehle I have to feed the child, or I must come back at a certain time, or I must carry that with me, and not like मैं जाऊंगी नहीं because I know that the child will trouble me. If you have the cue, you will carry that thing with you. So this understanding will only happen if you're alone with the child, not with anyone else. Yeah, I would say, like, at least in my case, 101%. I have become somebody that I also did not know that I would become before I was pregnant with her. And I was somebody who wanted to try everything, of course, and I have done that. I've had a very eventful, youth, and I would say, and very nice time traveling and doing everything possible. But after I was also, always protected, and I was also asked to do this, do that, and I used to be a little more timid than I am now. And I think after realizing that I can handle a child alone, and the fact that I have things going on in my life, like I live alone with my daughter right now in Pune. My husband is posted elsewhere, and I run a complete household by myself. I don't have a nanny or any help at the moment, and I know that I'm finding so much joy in doing this that I don't want to trade it for anything else. This freedom, this this ability to handle the child and still have a nice time is some joy that I don't think I would have got flustered if some maybe 5 years back someone would have told me कि ऐसे करना पड़ेगा तुम्हें, some point you'll have to do this. I would have been like, no way I can handle this, without support. I will need my mother, or I'll need my father all the time, or my husband even. But now I'm totally okay. I don't see, like, I don't need only anyone else to. It's great that we do have, like, family support, but I'm saying that it's possible to handle a child on your own, even if you don't. So in my case, I've become more adventurous for sure after she was born. Well, absolutely. You can handle both. You can handle a career and a child together. Of course, there are some compulsions in some cases, very rare cases, in which the child medically needs that kind of support, that one parent has to be home all the time. Then yes, then it is logical and it's understood that the child will need 24/7 care. But if this is a situation in which you can work and you still you're kind of apprehensive, then I would say take the chance and rebuild on what you thought you would have loved to do before you had the child, or what you were doing. So in my case also, I like I told you, I studied after I was married, way later. I think after 5 years after I was married, I took up my master's, and I delivered a baby right after that, and then I have started my career again. I am working full time as well as doing my freelancing of being a travel writer, blogger, and I'm managing a child alone. And I would say 3 things are possible. I mean, if you have the will, you will do it. You will find a way. And there's no reason why women should give up on anything they love just because they've become a mother. So it's not an obstacle. So having a child is in no way an obstacle. In fact, it's a blessing, and it's an opportunity for you to discover who you are. Yeah, it's important, I think, to have support from your husband. In my case, I'm very lucky because he's always been a very supportive person, and whenever he's had any doubts or concerns, I've always spoken to him about it, and we've had a open conversation about why I need to do what I do. It's not like rebellion, like I'll do, or no matter what anyone says, I'll go my own way. It shouldn't be like that, because you should not forget that the child is a product of both parents, and it depends on both parents and the will of the father and the mother as well. So if you're planning to go anywhere with the child, even if the father takes them, they generally consult with the mother, right? So the same thing should happen when the mother is planning to take the child anywhere. And in both cases, I have spoken to my husband at length, because of course there were concerns about how will you manage, and will she be safe, and what if she gets sick, what will you do? So these are kind of things that I've always spoken about to my husband. And because I think we're on the same page, mentally at least, I think we are able to carry on this life. For husbands who have a little bit of a difficulty in accepting the fact that their wives might continue their career even after they become mothers, or might not stick to home, I must say that you don't really know what you're missing out on. A great family life, a great chance to bond with your wife and your child, and you don't know what your wife is capable of. Only if you give her the support, I think you'll come to know what a superwoman she can be. So just give her the chance. Yeah, well, in Europe a lot of people do it. They do backpack with their children. I've seen very few solo mothers doing it. I've seen a lot of families backpacking with their children. Is very common in Europe, but in India it's very uncommon. You don't usually see a mom taking off with her child and going somewhere, more so to a hostel and staying there by herself. So of course I've had reactions, I've had people asking me, how are you going to do this, or oh, what, you're alone, or like they ask me, oh, are you a single mom, or they ask me, oh, are you divorced, and stuff like that. And even on my social channels, a lot of people ask me, like, are you divorced, or where is your husband, why don't you travel as a family? I said, it's a choice that I've made, and we do travel as a family, but I also travel with my baby, and this is something that we've been doing for a long time. So these are certain myths and stereotypes, I think, that come from not seeing a lot of women doing it. But now I think some women have started taking smaller trips. Some women get back to me from their trips and they tell me, oh, your tips helped me. I went here and there and I trekked with my baby today. Here are the photos. And these are the simple pleasures that I get of encouraging other moms to do the same things with their children. So similar experiences, I think, of staying in hostels, meeting people. Many times I meet youngsters, a lot of youngsters who are like hosteling, and then they see the baby with me, and then they're like, from where have you come? And I say India, and they were like, whoa, like we know India to be a very like culturally diverse and a very orthodox kind of a place, and here you are with your child and you're alone, like. So then I explained to them that it's something that like a lot of Indian women are experimenting with right now. There are a lot of female solo travelers as well, and I may be one of the few moms who are alone backpacking with their children from India, but I think you'll see, like, in the next couple of years there'll be so many. I'm telling you, because with the internet being available to everyone, and with the ease of travel and experiences like reading up on research and blogs from other moms, you do get a lot of inspiration. I think Western Europe is very good to travel with children, and I would recommend it to anybody who wants to travel alone with their child. Pick Western Europe, or pick places like Singapore, and or even states like Rajasthan in India are very, very like it's accustomed to hosting tourists. And if you're alone also with a child, it would be very safe for you. In Western Europe, why I say is because everything is so well laid out. Public transport comes on time, and there are fixed bus stations everywhere that the bus will take off on time. It's not like you'll have to stand with your baby for hours, like how you do in some places here. And there are signages in English. You will understand everything. There's a supermarket everywhere. Even in the smallest town, you will find a supermarket which has fresh milk and fresh fruits. So even if your baby, you don't have any food now, you can give them milk and fruits and make them sleep. So that is there. Plus, so Western Europe is something, and then you can take the pram everywhere. It's so friendly to walk around that there are pavements, pedestrian walkways that you will not find in India in all the places. Which is why I say it's a little bit difficult to backpack with a child in India. I've not done it as much, and I want to start now. But outside, I've not really had any bad experience. We've even been to New Zealand last year, and we had a great time because it was so friendly, and it was adept to, like, I don't know, welcoming, I think, solo moms and babies, and the people are just generally very warm. Yeah, a lot of them, like people that I met at the hostels, they were very good. There was this one girl called Hawa in Germany in my first trip with my baby, when I didn't realize that I had booked a room that was on the 3rd floor. It was a dorm for me and Ariana, and I had a rucksack with me and a child, and she saw it, and she was like, I'll help you hold the baby till the time you shift the luggage. So I used to walk, because there was no lift also over there, so I used to walk up and down, keep my luggage, and then come down. So she was holding my baby till then, I still remember. And it was my first time, obviously, so I didn't know that they would be so good. And she was really good. She came and she used to sit with us during breakfast in the morning. She used to play with Ariana, and she got very fond of us during the trip. So we took a lot of photos together and everything. And I still remember that she used to work at this hostel, and then she used to come and sit. And then she made the entire staff also sit and dine with us one day during breakfast. So that was one of the good characters. There was another couple who was really friendly with me when I was, so during the last trip to Barcelona, I was taking a train, to Seville via Madrid, and it was a connecting train. And because it was such a short transit time, there were 2 trains going off within 15 minutes span of time. And I thought that it wouldn't be enough time for me and Ariana to change platforms, because we had a pram, I had the rucksack again, and she was also there. So, and I didn't understand, they were talking in Spanish most of the time, and it was a little difficult to understand. So there was this other family who was traveling on the same train, so I told them my thing, and I was like, I'm alone with a child, and when there's 15 minutes, it'll be too much for me to kind of walk around, run. Can you tell me what the approximate thing is? So they said they've been to that region before, so they said, just follow us. They said, just follow us, we'll also be taking the same train. We are going to, I think, Cordoba, and I had to take the train to Seville. So they said, just follow us and we'll help you. So the stop came in Madrid, and the train stopped for about approximately 15 minutes, and I already told Ariana, I said, Ariana, when I tell you, just run and go behind. And I had the pram folded with me, because I think I had a rucksack also. So I said, you hold my hand, taking the pram and the rucksack, and we'll run. And madam, oh God, she said yes at that time. And the family started, they were like, walk behind us. And then we started running. And in between, Ariana was like, I can't walk. Mama, carry me. And then she fell down on the floor. And she refused, and the train was going to leave from the other platform within maybe 10 minutes or something. And the other family was like, hurry up, you're going, okay? So I said, Ariana, what is this? And she refused to get up. She was like, my legs are paining, I can't walk, mama. So then I'm again opening the pram, I'm making her sit down, and then she sat down, and then I wheeled the pram like nobody's business, okay? I didn't care who was there. I was like, wee. Finally, we reached the other platform, and that family was waiting. They were like, where were you? Thinking you'll get lost, and that you won't reach the train. Luckily, just before the whistle blew, we reached on the train to Seville, and then we found our chairs, and I was like, Ariana, don't you dare do this again. And yeah, so that was a very, very, very adventurous ride. But we did it. We did it successfully. So I want to take her to Central Asia. I've been planning Central Asia for some time, and I've been hearing very good reports of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and all these countries. And I really want to do these countries with her, because they're very beautiful, and I've heard the people are very warm. And they treat Indians well, for a change. So I want to go there with her. Also, I want to support a lot of local businesses at this time in India, because they've suffered a lot. So I've already been speaking to some people, some operators in the Northeast and other states in India. So I plan to do Northeast very well with Ariana by myself. And then I'll also do a lot of road trips if I can. I'll take the car and then I'll just go somewhere, and then I'll spend a few days and come back. So small trips, I think. Didn't know what she would experience 6 years hence. She's become more confident, she's become more aware of things, and also to trust the world a little bit more. I think Dinaz was a little apprehensive about certain people and certain things in life, but now she's become more accepting of different kinds of people and also of herself, because she was always, I think growing up, I was like all, I think teenagers do, I was a little underconfident and I was a little soft-spoken. I still am soft-spoken, but I was even more soft-spoken. So you can imagine, I used to get run down and not bullied exactly, but then I used to have issues with myself, where I used to think that I'm not that confident and everything. But traveling has helped me overcome all those fears and given me a sense of confidence that, okay, this is who I am, and I don't need to change for anyone, and I'm learning new things, and I don't know everything. So these are things that I've sort of picked up all these years. It's a very hard question. I cannot predict. That's the most amazing thing. I cannot tell you where I will be, what I will be doing, and what environment will be in. I definitely know that my daughter will be 10 by then, in 5 years. but I don't know what situation will be by then. But I hope it's positive, and I hope it's something that continues to make me grow.